Thank you so much. A warm good morning, good afternoon to each one of you. Before I start, how many of you are coming for an open event post-COVID for the first time? Look around, please. Please keep your hands up. Payal, that's your success. I asked Payal only one question. कितने लोग रहेंगे? Okay. नहीं, लड़कियां. Okay, I think we'll stop because I want Payal to listen to you. No. You get your organizing side done. I'm okay. Okay, so let me repeat it. You can record it. Okay. Get your organizing part. Pause for a few minutes. Okay. So just look back. The same question is getting repeated. You can rewind it. Okay. How many people are coming here for the first time post-COVID for a physical event? Makes you happy? Okay. The only question that I asked Payal is that how many people are going to come? What was the answer? The number is more than that. And I was even worried that, is it a problem of seat that you're not sitting? No, I'm taking photographs. Second success. Third success, I think for me the most important part is that everybody is talking here collaboration, not competition. There are so many trainers over here. I mean, so many friends like Tanvi or Harish sir and everyone over here. It's so, Brigadier Sahib, I've heard him so much. It's so interesting to know that we are moved into a different world post-COVID. It's not about you versus me, it's you and me. So thank you so much. Now we can get in the organizing side. Friends, I've been very, very, very fortunate because if you count a human life and put what's your parameter of success, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I did make a game plan for myself, purpose of my life, goals in life, typically we all trainers, that includes me. We tell the goal hona chahiye, target hona chahiye, purpose hona chahiye. Sab kar chuka. And you'll be surprised that, a few years ago, I just opened up some Diwali cleaning up hota hai na. So suddenly purpose bahar aaya. Documented purpose. And I was like, oh my goodness. Overachieved. All of them. And I'll tell you the reason why. I'll come back how we are going to be connecting today's topic. It's very important. Many years ago, typically the India that we lived in, okay, opportunities were few. Going abroad was the greatest achievement in life. Today we go abroad for weekends and come back, isn't it? Okay, the typical list was, घर लेना है, गाड़ी लेना है, पढ़ाई करना है, शादी भी करना है, etc. I don't know why. This was the typical generation problem that we are talking about during those days. I'm talking about 20, 21 years ago. Then you go back and say, okay, कुछ अलग करते हैं. So I just wrote down, कि author. Let me write a book. Now it's very popular. I'm sure so many authors over here. Then I said, no. That time, all the motivational speakers tell you, don't think small, think big. You remember all that stories? Okay. Don't think small, think big. So I said, all these goals, now let me redefine it for myself. पढ़ाई करना है. Wait, big कैसे हो सकता है? PhD करना है. So why पढ़ाई करना है यार? Highest पढ़ाई करो ना. घर लेना है. ठीक है. Then I started realizing one thing, घर का definition क्या है? Having a flat in Bombay is big. Financial capital of India. True or no? Yes. Okay, चलो. खुद का घर लेना है. In Bombay. Okay. So even though you're a Mumbaikar, for many friends who are not from Mumbaikar would actually value it more. It's not easy to buy a house in Bombay. Isn't it true? Yes. Geographically within Bombay, with Mulund being the address, which is pin code into Mumbai, not Navi Mumbai. Okay. तो घर लेना है. Typically. Okay. फिर वो छोटा मोटा. So when I took out that particular paper, I realized one thing, my goodness, each of them actually is overachieved. I'm not saying achieved. So look at PhD, I'm a gold medalist, not just PhD. I have guided students, and Tanvi may know this, and 17 of my students are pursuing PhD under me. And not just PhD, I'm actually a director of an institution in Mumbai University, not affiliated to Mumbai University. I have an office in the Kalina campus. It's called the Chanakya International Institute of Leadership Studies. It's not achievement, it's overachievement. Yesterday I was at the Raj Bhavan. I got felicitated for my contribution to social impact. I was like, wow. The good part is that वहाँ पे बात नहीं करना है. Okay. So education is not just the best or foreign education. Now I teach in universities abroad, Oxford, Cambridge. And that's not going for learning, going for teaching. Parameter number 2, book लिखना है. एक book लिखना आपको पता है ना, all the authors know how it is. 21 books done. 21. And very important, all of them are bestsellers. All. And I can tell you statistically what a bestseller means. For those people who are not yet authors, please take a dream back from today to become an author. It means 10,000 copies been sold. 10,000 में मतलब कोई नंबर है क्या इंडिया के लिए 130 करोड़ की जनता and using 10,000 copies. ठीक है. All my books together and everything put together is class of millions. Every book I check with my publisher as a target. Okay, target होना चाहिए ना. आंकड़ों में नहीं बात करोगे तो धंधा क्या किया? Vision converted into numbers is wealth creation. Vision converted into numbers is wealth creation. Vision ठीक है, but a lot of companies visionary die off because they become sick companies, which specifically means you don't know how to work on your financial numbers. I'll tell you something interesting. 20 books. 21st book right now is children's book called Chatur Chanakya Part 2. Okay, it's called Chatur Chanakya versus the World Wide Web. So we are talking about children's problem about cyberbullying, and I'm sure all parents, grandparents are worried about it. Okay, this book, okay, it's not even released. We just opened the pre-booking on 17th, and the publishers, not even India's, world's #1 publisher, Random Penguin Book House is releasing it. The first print run is 17,000 copies. This is the biggest children book category for India, and I get very humbled. It's very wrong to even tell the number of somebody else like Sudha Murthy ji. Her books got printed and she's the stalwart. I look upon her as one of the best authors for children in this country. If you have not read Sudha Murthy ji, shame, puppy shame. Unka print run was 15,000. My print run is 17,000. And I'm going to make sure the first copy goes to her only for blessings. Why am I telling you all this? Topic that I'm going to address is a different India, a different guidance to the next generation. Are you okay with the topic? Okay. A different India and a different guidance to the next generation. Well, let me tell you why I'm going to speak on this particular topic. Because I scan my audience. So each one of you are a stalwart in a different space. But I was just telling that I need a special advice about ergonomics, to maybe tarot card reading, to so many tips from the armed forces. Now I do work with the intellectual part of the army now. I'm part of the NDC. I'm part of a lot of policy making now. So with Brigadier Sahab, I want to have a separate discussion. But I want to tell you something which probably, कहते हैं ना दिल से. I think डॉक्टर कहाँ पे गए टैरो में भी बोला ना, speak out of love. That's going to be my mission today. Thank you for guiding me. Because too much intellectual is okay to a level, but finally वो मन की बात और दिल की बात होनी चाहिए ना. So मन के बारे में बहुत बोलता हूँ, बुद्धि के बारे में बहुत बोलता हूँ, लेकिन आज दिल से बात करूँगा. And you should be very much ready for what I'm going to tell, okay? Because it's going to break a lot of myth of yours. Are you ready for it? Yeah. Sure. It's going to break a lot of things, and I can guarantee you this. If you take this seriously, it will transform your life from the moment you leave from here. Your relationship will change, your understanding will change, and let me tell you, you'll become wiser when you go from here. Because it's not me who's going to speak, it's the wisdom of this great country that's going to speak. Ready for it? Yes. We don't know how to guide the next generation. True? Let's accept it. And that includes me, okay? We don't know. And when I say next generation, I'm not only talking about the children in your house, okay? I can see various age groups. Some of you are yet to be parents. Some of you are grandparents. It doesn't matter. But we don't know how to deal with the next generation. Why? There's a beautiful statement that I read about, I think it was a Japanese culture. And a very, very impactful thing that set me on a different journey. And that statement was, never limit your knowledge to your next generation, because you are born in a different world. Our problem is that we give them knowledge, but we forget they don't require knowledge, they require wisdom and love. Are we going backwards as a nation? Or are we going to take them forward? I want to tell you this. We have failed as a generation to understand where our children are born. We get happy with those goal setting exercises that I did. Remember that? But we don't understand them. We force our ideas, but we don't look at their dreams and opportunities. So to start with, let me redefine my goal setting exercise. In my generation, especially when I used to look upon stalwarts, the statement was, don't think small, think big. Now we have to redefine as we go out from here. Don't train your children to think big. Train them to think biggest. Not big. We are already big. Biggest. Jo bhi karo, number one karo. Not even number two. Jo bhi karo, number one. Not even number two. Remember, you never win a silver medal. You actually lose a gold medal.
Yes.
It's so sad when I see in families saying that the children are sitting with the mobile. Hey, bacha, mental health, mental problem. Arey bhaiya. We moved into technology. They started with technology. We don't understand them. For us, technology is an add-on. For them, they don't live without technology. They don't understand the world without technology. They understand the world through technology. True or no?
Yes.
You call it social media, you call it artificial intelligence. We cannot understand them. So before I start with Chanakya, I'd like to talk about one of the very profound wisdoms of Khalil Gibran. You remember that? If you have not read it, please do read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. It's easily downloadable now with all the information available. And there's a chapter on parenting or bringing up a child. And Khalil Gibran very beautifully says, you can never enter into their world of thoughts. You can never. Your past is dead. Please lock it and put it into a cupboard. And just maybe keep it from a memory, some nostalgia. But you cannot give your wisdom to your children. We are limited. We have experience, but that's not what the next generation wants. Now, why do you think I'm talking about this particular topic? Because I could have talked about any topic. Ask Payal, kaun se topic baat hai? Pillai sir, whatever. It's like going to a hotel and kuch bhi chalega. And the hotel says that kuch bhi nahi hai list mein. There is no item like that. Okay, then you discuss and waste time. I decided this particular topic. Is it okay? Sure? Chalo, good. So it doesn't matter whether you are number one in your field. You still cannot make your children understand what you have done. याद रखिएगा, जिंदगी गाड़ी रिवर्स गियर पे नहीं चलती. जिंदगी गाड़ी रिवर्स गियर पे नहीं चलती. उसके लिए डायरेक्शन तो देना जरूरी है. तो अगर बच्चों को आगे बढ़ाना है तो पीछे जरूर जाना पड़ेगा, लेकिन गाड़ी के रिवर्स गियर पे नहीं, लेकिन एक अलग तरीके से उन्हें हमको पीछे लेके जाना है. I like to quote Khalil Gibran. He gives a beautiful analogy about the bow and an arrow. So parents are elders, I would say, they're like a bow, but an arrow is always going forward. Now interestingly, the arrow are your children, your next generation, I would call it. The bow requires a support, the arrow requires a support of the bow, isn't it true? That's where the steadiness comes in. And interestingly, the arrow along with the bow has to go back to gather momentum, true? But you have to let it go, because that's where the arrow goes forward. Our problem is that the bow wants to decide where to go. You cannot. You can only give them the momentum by going behind. And that's exactly what I'm going to do by going back into the Indian culture and history. Today you'll be surprised. I work with so many different, I wouldn't say organizations. Organization is a very bad word. I would say different parts of the society. So I work with the armed forces in one way. I work with spiritual organization. I work with doctors on one front. I work with the academia. I work with, I don't know how many, corporate world, of course. Corporate Chanakya, everybody talks about it. And you'd be surprised. I'm fortunate to actually have the essence of what's happening in India. और ये जो नेक्स्ट 45 मिनट्स है मेरे हाथ में या 1 आवर जो भी है, मैं ऐसे बताऊंगा कि हम लोगों ने कितनी गलतियां की है. रेडी है कि नहीं है? इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हमने प्यार नहीं किया है. I want to speak out of love. But it's time for us to reflect. The time has come to change ourselves for the betterment of the next generation. We have changed outside. Fortunately, the economic conditions are brilliant. I think we don't have enough space to park our second and third car in our societies. Isn't that a problem? It is a major problem. Today, venue में शादी का सीजन चल रहा है ना, the first thing they ask is that, गाड़ी parking कहाँ है कि नहीं है. So in fact, I've seen a lot of wedding cars have valet parking available. And the best is to book a hotel like this. We're not worried about money anymore. But I think the concern is that we're all going to live longer to guide the next generation. But we may not be guiding them. Probably may be misguiding them. So I'm going to be talking about 3 topics connecting to, of course, the past, Indian culture, Chanakya. But remember one thing, these 3 are so fundamental that if you get it right today, you'll actually do the greatest favor to take India to the next level. The first one is education. Second one is career. And the third one is finance. I'm sure these are the only topics we talk about in our families, isn't it, with the children? Education, career, finance. Of course, everything is interconnected with marriage and bacha. That is secondary. Okay? Education system. I'm an educationist, I'm an academician. As I told you, it is not just giving lectures, it's also organizing lectures. And I'm like to put it very easily, I'm not just a principal of a college. At Mumbai University, we actually guide directly 850 colleges, 850 colleges. It's not many people understand the impact of Mumbai University's size. I sit in that particular board when I train principals of colleges, not give lectures. Technically speaking, there is something called as faculty development programs. Faculties are teachers. And I tell them, galtiyan mat karo. An education institution has the biggest respect in this society. Isn't it true? The first time in our Sola Sanskars, please study that also. It's a very important Sanskar, where you take the child out for the first time. Many of us take it to the temple, isn't it? Or to a place. Now that's more from a family perspective. The first time you actually take a child outside your house and leave him or her is actually an education institution. And as a parent, you cannot go inside the gate. Isn't it true? Yes. So that is the trust that we have in our education institutions. True or no? So the first thing, if you want to really guide your next generation, it doesn't matter whether they're 21 years old, 2 years old, or 40 years old. I'm sure some of you may be having children at that age group also. I tell you that the first thing that we require to understand is not to change the education system. Now that is the problem. ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है, वैसा नहीं. By the way, I'm been part of the NEP, National Education Policy. I'm sure everybody will listen. So I'm not part of the drafting team, but we are a part of the team where we spend a lot of workshops together, gathered data, and my input has been very seriously taken. So first thing I want to tell you that as a society, okay, we have respected gurus, teachers, or you can call them trainers, speakers, etc., etc. So somebody who is at that level with more experience, wisdom, and knowledge, we respect as a society. How many of you are formal teachers over here or go to colleges, universities here? Anybody? Okay, great, thank you. It's important to understand the role of a formal teacher in an education system. Formal teacher. Baki to kya? Mother is the first guru, no? Mata, Pita, Acharya. Matrudeva Bhava, Pitrudeva Bhava, Acharya Deva Bhava, Atidhi Deva Bhava, right? So I will not start with the parents at home, they are also teachers. I'm talking about the formal education system. In the formal education system, there's a big mistake we so-called guys do as parents. We don't choose the teachers, we choose the brand. Mistakes I'm going to tell you, right? A lot of parents who come to me, rich parents, not so rich parents, they come and ask me, kaun sa school mein dalu? What is the definition of a school? It's becoming brand, isn't it true? I'm not against brand. Did you ask this fundamental question? What are the quality of teachers in that school? We don't. And I know, I'll tell you the other side of it, because 850 colleges directly and only Mumbai University. The private colleges is different. I work with hundreds of schools, not one or two, hundreds of them. Chatur Chanakya is getting printed 17,000 copies. The basic reason is that all principals promote it, teachers promote it for their children. I've done hundreds of physical events for my first book, Chatur Chanakya and the Himalayan Problem. So I'll tell you one thing. The teachers blame the parents blame the teachers. Finally, who suffers? The next generation. True or no? We blame the teachers. And the richer the school is, the principal is not accessible. True? आप कितना भी लाखों दे दो, the principals have decided कि ये ज़्यादा दे के customer service लेने को आते हैं. Schools, they call me on the boards, and I never tell no to a single person. Okay, I'm not a moral science teacher. Let me tell you very clearly. Even though I understand morals and ethics, I've gone to annual day programs where the principal, in front of all the parents, actually has told us that thank you for our company which has got some wonderful customers. Are you talking about the children who have come to you as customers? I hope this hits you hard, really hard. There is finance required in an education institution, isn't it true? But you can't think about it like a give and take transactional model and give a feedback mechanism to your teacher and saying, you know, your quality of teaching is not good. My special request to all the educated mothers. Education system cannot change without you deciding who the teacher is. It's not the brand, it's not the infrastructure. I've been to schools where the infrastructure was 7-star, not even 5-star, I'm sure. 7-star. And the students who come there, the parents are some from the richest part and the richest community within Mumbai. I'm sure. But they don't discuss education. They discuss, aage kya karna hai. So I said, whom do we blame? I want to tell you this. I will blame myself. Let me start with it. Because I had a wrong choice. My parents generation, okay. My father is 86. My mother just left all of us physically in March. My parents' generation, I'm sure many of your parents' generation, it was not about education. It was about literacy. True or no? No, education is not a problem. Today, as we say in our education field, the curriculum that was discussed in the 18th century, which got implemented in the 19th century, are taught by teachers in the 20th century for children of the 21st century. Yes. So that they are ready for the 22nd century. And we have this nice thing of blaming Mr. Macaulay. हम लोग सब Macaulay के पुत्र हैं. Macaulay is gone. Macaulay is gone. Are we stupid that we can't change our own systems? The systems don't change at the government level or policy level. It changes at dinner tables. It changes at dinner tables in families when you're discussing बच्चे का future क्या है. And that time you're discussing brands. The dinner table discussions are so important for a social development. And unfortunately, dinner table discussions have this and the television. Even if it is Tarak Mehta ka Ulta Chashma, which teaches a lot of fundamental values, dinner table discussion should be discussion. It should be debate, but not arguments. Our country has a great history of debates, discussions, but we have landed up in arguments. I am better than you. I know better than you. पता है 1974 में क्या हुआ था? ठीक है यार. My dear friends, we are going through a very fundamental change in the education system formally, but we are not ready for that change. So let me tell you something technically and be ready for this. From literacy, we are already going to education. Isn't it true? By the way, good news for all of you. India is almost getting 100% literate. Almost. सबको बटन लिखने को आता है? Even the rickshaw wala. I've seen, the cobblers are disappearing in our societies now. Because now repair nahi hota hai, replace hota hai. So everything is not repaired. So the cobblers as a generation is going on. But if you ever find a cobbler, just watch over there. Okay? During the free time, he still reads a newspaper or a mobile. Isn't it true?
Yes.
That means literacy is not our generation's problem anymore. पढ़ने लिखने को आपका मेड को भी आता है कि नहीं आता है? उसके बच्चों को भी आता है. So literacy is gone. So when we started from 1947, we were 33 crore people and hardly, I don't even know the statistics, 8 to 9% were literate, and literacy was a privilege of the high class. It was a privilege, okay? So the people who went to UK and became lawyers and barristers were a privileged class. So Jinnah was the richest person in this particular part of the country. I hope you know that. So he went there. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was a landlord. Mahatma Gandhi could afford it. And those who could not got sponsorship. And today we are talking about 100% literacy. But the interesting part is from 1947 to 2021, we are 130 plus crore people, isn't it? And the numbers are increasing. But we are not worried about it. Literacy is not our problem. Our problem is we are still talking about education. This is where we get wrong. We should not be talking about education. We should be talking about research. Mark this word, very important. We need to discuss not education. We should be discussing research. I have parents who come to me and saying that abhi bachcha ka graduation hone wala hai, abroad jana hai. Abroad jana? And they got huge budgets for it. 1 crore, 2 crore, 5 crore, whatever it is. We are in that generation and the government is also, banks are all giving a lot of loans for it. Yes or no? First mistake. I am not telling you don't go abroad. I am not telling you don't go abroad. But the question is that, is it still a fashion statement that my daughter, my son has gone abroad and come back? And it is izzat banta hai, social status banta hai. I want to tell you something very fundamental of education system. The child should get educated in what he or she is good at. And if the best teacher is available in any part of the world, please send him over there. Our problem is we don't guide the children where to find the best teacher. The children are only doing research on some feedbacks given on Twitter about that institution. So Harvard is a great brand. Everybody is aspiring to go to Harvard. Nothing wrong. But my question is that on the dinner table, did the parents, grandparents actually discuss, oh, bachche mein kya gun hai? I'm going to guide you step by step how to find the purpose of your child's life. We don't know how to purpose of our life. वो तो हो गया, गाड़ी बंगला हो गया ना purpose. I told you I found out कि क्या है, I overachieved my target. And people ask me in formal interviews, what are you going to go do for the next 25 years now? You have a plan? I said I have a 2,500 year plan. What 25 years? हो गया ना मेरा life में. I have no problems. But I have a purpose to help others find their purpose. And I'll prove to you scientifically how you can find a purpose for yourself and for your child. Ready for it? It's a big question. I remember a small cartoon, some of you must have seen. What's up forward? So one guy is shouting at God. God, tell me the purpose of my life. And then the reply comes from God. Okay? So that becha, ye sab question nahi puchna hai. Because once you have a purpose, then you'll have a goal and then you'll get stuck. Okay? And then you'll get confused. So the boy says, Acha, you also don't know your purpose. Again, so everybody's, I hope you realize this question that's getting debated, purpose of my life, purpose of my life. Let me tell you, I have guided youngsters in New York, in Manhattan, the richest part of the world. And I'm not talking about Indians, okay? NRIs or PIOs. Okay? Let me tell you, this generation, everywhere across the globe, let me tell you, not only in India, are talking about purpose. It's a big thing. We started it, they will complete it. So I remember when I was in New York, there's young boys and girls, all working in Wall Street, all investment bankers. Good news, everybody below 30. The first thing is, audience kaun hai, kya hai? My first fundamental question to all organizers. Fir kya mic mila to sirf end time kitna hai dekhna hai. You go on and on. So I was discussing with these guys, and let me tell you, except for 1 or 2 people who organized it, everybody had no Indian origin. but they were working with the Wall Street. Abhi ab chhod do na yaar. I mean, paisa ka to kya problem hai? Richest of the. Later on, I even came to know that one of the ladies, girls I would say, was sitting over there, was actually a Dutch princess. We're talking about that cream de la cream of the world. And I will be surprised, first 10 minutes you're talking about generally investments mein kya ho raha hai and all that. And suddenly I don't know why, it just got connected and I switched to this topic of purpose in life. And for the next 1 hour, there was complete silence and everybody came and told me, thank you. The first thing about education, we need to find out what is the children's purpose in life to get the best education. Don't look at the brand alone, look at the teachers and purpose. All the three I'll tell you tips as you go back and how to practice it, okay? So I'm not just going to do a theory, find your purpose, gone. It's like asking God, kya hai? Mujhe bhi malum nahi. I have found out my purpose and I exactly know what my children are born for. I'm putting it on records. Scientifically, not some blind faith, okay? Listen to that. I'll tell you the process. Bloom. Education ko thoda baaju mein rakhte hain. Career, important. How many of you HR people here? There you are. Thank you. The model change ho gaya na? Career. Disrupt. I've been very blessed to get invited and getting into some of the best places where you can discuss strategies and get insights. In the year 2016, I was invited to USA to be part of the American election campaign process when Trump got elected first time. Okay, I could not just say, okay, come. So we have an Ohio University. It's in Ohio, Akron. I don't know how many of you heard about Akron. It's a very interesting part of US. The largest populated place, and that university is around 150 years old. Okay, so I come from Mumbai University, which is 160 years old. So state universities. So, mujhe bulaya. So fortunately, I did not go immediately. They say it's a 3-month course. I sent 25 students, all politicians, and some of my students go and study the whole system. I went in the last 1 month. When I was talking to the presidents over there, which is equivalent to vice chancellor of universities over here, I got a very interesting insight. So that's Professor Green, a great man. Later on, we invited him to India, and we have some collaborations with Akron University. In fact, they also offered us to open up a Mumbai University campus there. So I'm not here to tell you children to go there. I'm here to tell you our education system should have branches there. Discussion different. So Dr. Green, very informally, hum log baithe baat kar rahe the and all those things. And he said, Dr. Pillai, I want to tell you something. What? We changed the education system in the world. I said, but we heard Macaulay. He said, no, theek hai. I'll tell you something what that we did. Anybody from the rubber industry over here? Rubber, tires. Okay, I'll tell you something. Now we are talking about China being the industrial capital. US was there, okay? And the leap in economy happened when they started doing mass production of cars. The Henry Ford era. Then of course the petrol came in. Rockefellers. During that era, when they started mass manufacturing of cars, Akron was an industrial capital of the world. For a specific thing called as tires. Rubber. Even now, Dunlop has got its headquarters there. Even now. I've been there, I've seen this. Of course, everything moved on to China. Now it's like a dead city. Ghost city ho gaya hai. Thode log hai. And Professor Green was telling me one thing. You know what? How did we contribute to the education system? What? One is research. By the way, they're still the best. If you go to anybody from rubber industry, they'll tell you. Akron mein agar aapko bachche ko rubber mein PhD karna hai, that is the best place. Let me tell you that. But you have to be very clear, not a degree for shadi. Specifically, उनको आपको पता होना चाहिए कि where is the best teacher and where is the best research happening of that field. Of that field. So Professor Green was telling me about how the education system changed after their contribution, because America was powerful and they were making an impact and they were looking at their own education system. So he said, do you know in education we have an interesting word called as batch by batch? Standard by standard. Have you used this word? कौन से standard में, कौन से batch में? Actually, these are all industrial words. Did it ever connect to you? ISO, standard operating process, standards, isn't it? So every standard, so child should be of this standard to go to the next standard. It's an industrial concept. Batch by batch, आपने कोई भी product देखा है, batch number का आता है, unique code. So we designed an education curriculum which will be decided on age. Easy to. तो 5 साल हो गया तो बच्चा 4th standard में, 10 साल हो गया तो 5th standard में, and we can blindly tell you that if a child has not failed, if he or she is in 10th standard, what will be the age? Clear, na? But that's a fundamental problem. We're talking about age, physically, not mental or intellectual age. I have seen cases, I guide parents and children. A child is in 4th standard, but he can debate and discuss with the principal as if he's in 12th standard. True? So are you actually guiding your children intellectually? It doesn't matter what the curriculum is. So when you think about this, मेरा बच्चा कौन सा standard में है? I said you lost the game even before you started the game. There are children who may formally be in 4th standard, but the learning curve is slow, isn't it? You have to give them special care. So when I heard this, and that's so fundamentally true. You'll be surprised. When I take a class, at Mumbai University, we have a very interesting course called MALS, Masters in Leadership Science. It's a formal degree. I have students from 21 years to 64 in the same class. All. And what a learning curve. I have grandfathers there. As students, and I'm a teacher, I know my dharma, my role. And I ask them, they have doctors, the engineer, the chairman of companies, 2 years commitment on a Saturday, Sunday. Don't worry, you have to still do your business. I was like, if business nahi kiya, to kai ka leader? So I never tell, leave your career and come and study. It's not an executive development program. It is leadership development program. Are we thinking about all these lines? What is the interest of your child? What is his talent? What is that unique thing that my child has got, which should become his purpose of life or her purpose in life? Build your whole career along with that. Our problem is, यहाँ पे, वहाँ पे, finally, अरे कुछ तो कर ले, नहीं तो मेरे धंधे पे आ जा. मेरे धंधे पे आ जा. How much we have failed as parents because we don't know how to guide our children. And we are responsible for their complete torture, mental level throughout the life. True or no? Because you're forced to do education, forced to do engineering. I'll tell you stories which will shock you. Okay, I work with the youth a lot. I recently released a book, very interesting book. How many of you understand the YouTube generation here? YouTubers. Let me tell you, you don't understand. YouTubing is not the way to understand a YouTuber. So there's a book called Booming Digital Stars. You know this book? How many of you heard about it? Tanvi knows it. Okay. Thank you. That generation is different. Okay. You say, no, you know YouTube. You don't know. So I'll tell you why. Please buy this book. It's already number 1 on Amazon even before it got released. It's a story of 11 YouTubers in India. And those names sometimes you may not even know. The youth knows it. Ranveer Alabadia, how many of you know? Okay, a few of you know. Prajakta Kohli. Okay, some of you know. Okay. Others, please buy this book to educate yourself. All of them, okay, 11 handpicked people, and there's a case study which is built up. By the way, Amazon number 1 and the highest sales is outside India. Because the people are wondering, India mein chal kya raha hai? And the person who wrote the book, Manish Pandey, okay, mark my words, he's below 30, okay, and he is a social media guide to the Reliance Group, including the chairman. He guides Karan Johar on social media strategies. Now that is not about it. He told me, कि 11 लोगों का सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम क्या पता है? क्या है? Each of them average makes 3 to 5 crores a year. और मम्मी पापा बोलते क्या कर रहे वीडियो निकाल रहे इंजीनियरिंग कर ले बेटा शादी तो हो जाएगा. It's a serious problem. Now you wanted a child to make a career out of money, and you have money, you don't understand career. Have you ever heard of a company called Tag Mango? We don't understand our children. They're there right in front of you. We tell them don't use mobile. But what are they actually viewing in mobile, we don't know. And it's not necessarily only porn. Huh? The children have access to information that we can't even think about. It's a hyper-informed generation. I'm not even telling informed or over-informed. It's hyper-informed. They're so confused. And our parents say, huh? We failed to build our careers for our children also. It will hit hard because it's a social reality. And we are all social leaders over here who can think. The poor labor class can't think because अभी भी रोटी कपड़ा मकान में अटका हुआ है, isn't it? हम लोग रोटी कपड़ा मकान से निकल के आ गए हैं. We need to think that do we have a purpose in life? We have a purpose in life to give direction to the next generation. Friends, I'll tell you a story. There's this girl, my friends, so we studied in school together. She was in 10th standard. Strict rule from parents. Mobile and TV banned. How many of you do that? Till your board exams are over. How many of you do that? Sure, no? Wrong. Why? Wait, I'll tell you. Discipline is a very different thing. Colonel sir will tell you. Discipline doesn't mean not doing it. Doing it rightly is discipline. मिक्स पेरेंटिंग का हमको कभी कोर्स अटेंड नहीं किया ना, हमको तो मालूम ही नहीं है. वो दादी माँ ने बोला एंड देन वी बिकेम. सो दिस रोहित had told his daughter strictly, parents no, nahi, exams are just 2 or 3 days around. In the night the father wakes up and sees the light is on. बेटी पढ़ती होगी है अंदर. She is with the mobile. ये oh, I took the mobile. I told you this is not the time. We thought you were studying. Just cried and told Papa I was looking at the updates कि हमारा हॉल टिकट आया कि नहीं आया. They're using mobile. The question is, what are they doing with the mobile? I have seen mothers, as long as it's in the safe zone, that's fine. I'm not talking about safety. That's minimum. Don't worry. There are cyber experts who are taking care of safety and firewall. My question here is that, do you really understand what they are researching on? We don't connect. So their careers, let me put it this way, are already made even before they pass out from the education system. Have you heard about a concept called as teenager entrepreneurs? Yes. आगे क्या किया है? आगे क्या किया आपने? Have you heard about teenage entrepreneurship? It's a big thing. They're there. Now I'll tell you something. आपके पास कोई बच्चा है जो 18 years के नीचे है आपके फैमिली में? When do you make their PAN card? Wow. Oh, hi. Okay, when do you make a PAN card according to the government rules? 18 years? Sure?
No. Now minors also are required to have.
How many? What's the year?
5.
Listen to this very carefully, that how we are stuck in certain thoughts and the world has moved. When my mother expired, afterwards a lot of paperwork, banking work and all those things was happening. And finally we had to close her accounts and all that stuff. And when I was, putting on all the hormones and all those things, my mother told, let's start your daughter's account also. My daughter is 11 years old. My son is 9 years old. I went over there and I just like, oh, minor hota hai na? Minor ka ek form le lo, you have a guardian and all that, isn't it? Because I opened up my account, opened by my mother, of course, when, I was in, I think, 5th or 6th standard. That's where alag guardian hota tha. So when I started discussing about, opening a form, the banker told me, uska PAN card bana dena. She's not even 18. She's not even PAN card bana dena. So बोलता 3 दिन का काम है, बना दो, फायदा होएगा. But I said, wait, why are you telling that? He started laughing. You have no clue how much money these children below 18 are making. Legally. True? And he told me, I stay in Mulund East, which is like a middle class, higher middle class kind of a suburb, very beautiful suburb. I love this place. I don't want to leave this. And typically it was a working class which got promoted and the children, most of them are abroad, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I just came to know. He was telling me that day before yesterday, a girl came in and she is in her 9th standard and she made 30 lakh rupees from some digital marketing and we had to help her pay the taxes, so she required a PAN card. What are we talking about career? They are done with the career problem. But we don't understand the space they are into. Very important. Okay, let me come back to career and education because in India both are interrelated. Isn't it? ये पढ़ाई करके ये करना है. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. पढ़ाई कुछ करते हैं, career कुछ और करते हैं. और happiness third जगह मिलती है. True? 15 years ago. Not now, okay? I read a very interesting book. I don't remember the author's name, but it's a professor from Harvard. The name of the book is The New World. Please write it down. I'm giving you some serious tips to think after you go. Don't trust Radhakrishnan Pillai. Trust data. I'm a motivational speaker category. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a researcher. It's a university, diehard data. And the book said, wow. I did not believe that guy, but I can see the reality happening in India right now. I'll tell you what the concept of the book is. Harvard, epitome. Everybody like Harvard में जाके पढ़ के आए मतलब इससे बड़ा आदमी ही नहीं है. It's a mecca of education. And we should give that respect because they are very, very focused on research. I work with a lot of professors there, okay? It's not that I'm appreciating. I work with Oxford and the Cambridges and we work on really serious projects. So this was much before I became an academician or a full-time into what I'm calling the space that I'm into. So this book called The New World is very interesting, okay? 15 years ago, this professor writes, the world has shifted from left brain to right brain in the education system. Left brain. And he starts showing data. He says, initially when people used to come to Harvard, okay, they were people with science background, isn't it? Doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, right? So all were the logical left brain thinking people. True or no? And suddenly he says 15 years ago, I can see a fundamental shift. People are taking courses on creativity, innovation, arts. I said, India तभी नहीं ये सब सोचा because हमारा hierarchy में क्या है? Science, best student. कुछ नहीं कर पाया, थोड़ा बहुत कर पाया, commerce. Useless guy, arts. Who defined it? Pardon? ऐसा नहीं है sir. The best go to the army according to. So अब देखो, this is who made the system. And anybody from Xavier's here? Okay, great. So Xavier's is part of Mumbai University also, so all of you know that. So maybe 15 years ago, Xavier's में everybody, the scientists used to go, isn't it? Today Xavier's में arts में admission नहीं मिलता है. Okay, now let me speak about career. Have you heard about the concept called creative economy? नहीं ना? लिख लो, research करो. The children will respect you and love you. The world has shifted into not the right logical left brain thinking, but right brain creative thinking. Please do. Lot of stuff is available. It's there, you don't see it. जिसे ढूंढा गली गली वो तो घर के पिछवाड़े मिली. It's already moved. Artists are making more money than the scientists. True or no? And of course, at the highest level, it is a combination of science and arts. The YouTubers are artists. They have a camera. Many of these 11 best YouTubers don't even have an office. And they could be from a small town also, in a big city also, correct? But their careers are very different. It's something called as creative economy. And everything is about design thinking, true or no? We talk about this thing, but we don't understand it's there, it's happened. I'll give you a simple example. In my particular building, society that I stay, this friend of mine, so his son is abroad and from Canada, and he'll be coming down to get married and all those things. So, माँ पिताजी का होता है ना कि थोड़ा घर को ठीक ठाक करो. So he was doing some renovation work in the house, and specifically, our society is 13-year-old, so थोड़ा leak का problem चालू हो जाता है ना. तो वो सब हो रहा था ना कि let me change the bathroom, all those things. And he came and told me, Radha, do you have any idea how many options are available in bathroom design? बोले पागल होता है पहला 3-4 and your budget range. तो उसी बजट में इतना range. That means design thinking has entered your tiles and your bathrooms. Design thinking has entered your dresses, isn't it? Design thinking has entered every single part of the world. Who is doing it? Your generation next. But do we respect them? They play with colors and they get paid. Chartered accountant, engineers, doctors, scientific, no? I'm not telling that is bad. They are also required. It has to be a combination of both. So if your daughter or your son or your grandson is playing with colors, they can make a career out of it. You don't understand it. That's your problem. But that doesn't mean they are wrong. Let me give a specific instance. This friend of mine, again, I'm 47 for your calculations. You can do a lot of calculations. कौन से generations of बात कर रहे हैं? For easy calculation, round up कर दो 50 साल. So being a man, I'm okay being 50 in my field. So this is a guy born with a rich family. His father, rich in our standards, because father had a automobile business and all those things. So बेटा को artistry में interest था, design, fashion में interest था. Very good looking, handsome boy. And he wanted to become an artist. Okay. But father said, नहीं, तेरे को आके garage संभालना, जाके engineering करना. You have to take our business to the next level. We came to Bombay. I did this for you. तेरे को आगे लेके जाना है. ठीक है. चुपचाप बैठ के drawing करता था. 10th standard का exam हो गया. For us, that generation, and unfortunately even this generation, 10th standard मतलब भूत आ गया है. It is a parents' exam, not children's. So parents are having the whole problem. So 10th standard का exam हो गया. We're still waiting for results. And this guy चोरी से छुप के जाके JJ School of Arts का exam देता है. And he passes. By the way, all of you know JJ School of Arts is not small. It's a legacy. If you are a JJ School of Arts, you are the best, and anywhere in the world you can go. It's not India's best. He cracked it. And जब admission का time आया, डर डर के पापा मुझे artist बनना है. Artist बनना है. झोला लेके घूमेगा. हाँ, इतना बड़ा धंधा खड़ा करके दिया. The artist in him was murdered by his father. क्या करे? इंजीनियर बन गया. He was good in studies. इंजीनियर बन गया. ऑटोमोबाइल इंजीनियर बना. I see his life is completely disrupted, destroyed. He can't even get married. Why? Conflict. We don't realize it. If marriages are failing, we parents are responsible. Okay? Don't blame them. I'm very clear on what I'm saying. If divorce rate are going up, we are responsible because we don't know how to guide them in relationships. And I can tell you case studies prove. Don't believe Radhakrishnan Pillai. Look at the data. I've saved marriages. And I believe that if something is not going right after extreme, divorce may be the solution. This guy can't get married because the day I was just going to, why don't you settle down here? It's okay. It's not about 47. You require a company. No, I cannot work with any girl in this life anymore. Why? Because I failed. But you have lots of money. You think money is a criteria? I never had a problem. When I go to his father is of course no more there is. So he goes to that particular automobile shop. It's a garage, one of the very prestigious garages in our area. Okay, but after half an hour of reporting in the morning, he runs away. फिर वो दोपहर को आता है and all those things. And I'm saying that he has such a good potential. But नहीं, मेरा दिल नहीं लगता वहाँ पे. What does he do? He goes and sits in some cafe and looks at the design. And he थोड़ा पर पैसा डाल के नए cafe business में डालता है. Cafe business में interest है. It's not about cafe business. Do you know when you start a cafe business, it's all about design. Isn't it true? But I love that. I want to try something new. So दिल अभी भी automobile में नहीं है. Imagine if you had got qualified. The JJ School of Arts क्या करता था? Opposite story of the same generation. I can tell his name also. I am sure if you want, you can take suggestions. His name is Subhashish Modi. Anybody has heard about him? Subhashish Modi and myself, we were in college together. So when I was doing my electronics, so he was a partner. Always interested in drawing, sketching. Of course, that's a great beauty you bring into engineering also, drawing and all those things. Amazing. So we just asked him, अरे इंजीनियर बनेगा क्या? बोलते नहीं इंजीनियर नहीं बनूंगा. अभी तो मैं 12th करने के बाद आर्किटेक्ट बनूंगा. उसमें बहुत पैसा ऐसा सुना है. आर्किटेक्ट बनेगा मेरा देखो. What? So clear. So he told, very interesting, I'm thanking my parents. What happened is when I was in 3rd standard, the drawing sir called my parents and said, बच्चे में एक बहुत बड़ा artist छुपा हुआ है. Okay, his mind is very different because art teacher identified it, isn't it? So ये तो मैं कर रहा हूँ, but my thing is that my parents have given me full permission to go for the art course. Same generation I'm talking about. Okay, today 9 out of 10 malls that is designed in India, he designs it. So an artist can also make money creatively. He is okay with engineering or architect, but remember one thing: the teacher said it, the parents understood it. So your happiness or your sadness of your child depends on you. Sachin Tendulkar, I worked in a company where we promoted him, okay, and very closely. Worldtel, Mark Mascarenhas, I don't know how many of you heard about this news. These are not names, they are revolutionary people. Mark changed around the finance in cricket field. Please do research the younger generation. I'm fortunate to work with a stalwart. अभी वो मूवी है ना 83 वर्ल्ड कप देखा कि नहीं देखा? देखो. हाँ, okay. Thank you. We'll go for it together. I'll sponsor ticket. साथ में जाओ. मेरा टिकट भी बुक. Okay. So what's very important to know that in the year 83 when India won the World Cup, we didn't have money to give people. 50 रुपए नहीं था देने के लिए. Mark turned it around. Today if you have this IPL and so yes, there are contributions of various people, but Mark said Sachin Tendulkar को 100 crore दूंगा. You remember that deal? As part of that company, we worked with him so closely. And I'll tell you at the end of it how to find out the purpose of your child's life. Want to know that? Okay, let me start with my career, second point I'm talking about. Careers are defined not by the industrial model, but what you're really good at. Subhashish Modi was good at something, a teacher identified parents and supported, and today, money is not a problem. He's got 200 employees. Okay, he's a story to be told. The other guy, frustrated, gets out of the house every day to go to study another cafe day coming up, another model coming up, and saying that this is what I want to do. The last point, finance. Finance is not a problem. Roti, kapda, makan, sab khatam ho gaya. True or no? The child will not be working for finance. They don't have that mindset. It's our problem because we lived in a poor India where every money counted. True or no? Let me tell you, it doesn't matter. You know, this generation is such a beautiful ecosystem, you'll be surprised. They will support each other. The typical parenting model, दो भाई हैं, तो पहले joint family, isn't it? एक दूसरे को support करते थे. उसका nuclear family. And now, two individuals staying together. So it is not joint family becoming nuclear family. It's even come down further. You'll be surprised, this generation understands the value of collaboration. They're not collaborating. Do you know this, how they collaborate? And they understand venture capital funding better than us. I've seen children going to rich parents and saying, Papa, I have this particular idea. Papa, acha beta. Pata nahi to kya karele 1 crore. Papa, wait. I got a funder who is putting 5 crores into it. Papa, aur acha hai. But he's still thinking finance. You know what he's thinking? Chalo, main 1 crore rakha tha baaju mein. Burn cash. But why say, no sir, Papa, I know how the world works. I know of, Bombay mein hai to, we find a lot of rich people. This group that we work very closely, I'm on the board of that particular, it's a 10,000 crore group. This guy goes abroad, studies, comes back and blah, blah, blah and all those things. And he says, Beta kya kar raha hai aajkal? So, Beta kuch to kar raha hai, wo artificial intelligence and all those things. And I said, okay, so will he be part of your business? So that we have not discussed. But I see him talking about venture capitalists and he's actually got a funding and he's working for the next level of $1 million. Even the rich people's children don't have a financial problem and the poor people's children don't have a financial problem. They know how to support each other. That is more important. It's not about finance. Aap dekho, I'll tell you, these children are so beautiful. These are so beautiful. If there is somebody having a financial problem, 4 friends unko help karte hain. Isn't it true? So why are you worried? The finance hona chahiye, theek hai. I got 5 more minutes. Now I'm going to tell you some practical tips. Ready? How to be better to guide the next generation. Ready or no? You'll help your friend who is having a financial problem. You'll get helped by your friend when you have a financial problem. They think collaboratively financially. हमारे इधर क्या होता था? भाई भाई का झगड़ा. Property disputes. राम राम राम. चाणक्य के टाइम से अभी तक. True? Absolutely. They don't believe in property. By the way, anyway, they want rented houses. They want to keep moving. I know some of the richest guy, young boys. When I say young, for me, it's below 30, okay? They have so much money, they still use Uber and Ola. True? You think it's worthwhile? Yesterday in the governor's office, we were at the Raj Bhavan. Ranveer Alabadia, as I told you, he also came, okay, to get the award and all those things. And we're just talking. Ranveer is one of the biggest YouTubers in this country, okay. So, I asked him, Ranveer, how are you going? He said, can I join you? My first thing is, his car nahi hai kya? He can afford a car, by the way. He's already born rich. He said, no, I prefer Ola. Can I come you so I can have time with you? Said, why not? So our standards of finance and richness and property doesn't matter to them. True? Now, let me come to our level and not blame you. Because it's a social conditioning, right? So we have to recondition. What are you supposed to do for all the three? I'll give you practical tips, and if you have some time for Q&A, we can do that. So let me come back with the first thing, education. How do you educate your child? In this country, there are three parallel education systems. We should be aware of all the three. The first one is the education that happens in the family, dinner tables. The education that happens in the school. And the third and the most important, which sometimes we don't focus, the education that is given by spiritual organizations. Hundreds of them, isn't it true? You have to have a balance of all the three. The question is that, are you studying? How many of you are studying even now formally? Okay, your age and the course that you're doing. Okay. You're not in the account because anyway you're supposed to be studying to tell your parents. If I tell you drop and go for a sabbatical for 3 years, will your parents be happy? Right. If your child decides at 21 not to do anything and go for a sabbatical, will you be happy? One person. So understand. So coming back, the first thing about education is that parents please start getting enrolled in a formal course. I told you I've got people at 57, 67 years. And you don't have to physically go. There are a lot of courses. You know what is the problem? When I tell all this thing, I think it's a psychological. Exam dena ko nahi aata hai abhi. It's an examination fear, isn't it true? I say study. If you write the exam and fail, it doesn't matter because it's not going to make a career out of it. There are thousands of courses. In the armed forces, there is a continuous education. Are you internally committed for continuous education till you die? And I'm talking of formal education. So, yahan se leke, you have to enroll in a course. Which course you decide? That's not my choice. But formally, minimum 3 months. Huh? 1 day seminar is not education. There's so many floating around and it's good. But for me, that is, tadka. Main kya hai? Minimum 3, maximum 4. 4, PhD. When you go through that rigor of a process, you get disciplined because of a teacher. True or no? And actually well-designed educational program helps you. And believe me, when you do that, you get updated on what's happening. True? And believe me, children will start respecting you. Bhagavad Gita says this very beautifully. Yad yad acharati shreshtaha tattat deve itaro janaha sayam pramanam kurte lokastat anuvartate. Shreshti is like a role model. Yad yad acharati shreshta. What the leader does, tattat deve itaro janaha. Others follow it. Children will not listen to what you say. Children will do by copying you.
Yes. Yes.
So, first things, यहाँ से जाने के बाद, first purpose is to get into an education. It decides, आप बताइए आपका course है. You may not do it for a career, but you can enroll for a spiritual course. There are a lot of courses like Vedanta padna hai, Jainism padna. I don't know. Universities are absolutely giving fantastic courses. I'll tell you one small instance, okay? I've been a fortunate person who dropped the education and came back to it with a choice. So after 12th standard, I went to do a BSc. I took a small break. But I told my father, no, I'm not quitting education, I'll come back. At 47, I'm still formally doing an education. I'm doing my DLit. It's a proper education which I have to do research for 10 years. I have to report every month. Why? Because my company that I'm created needs to have researchers. So I'm formally registered. You know what is my subject? That's my interest area. Not Arthashastra, that's over for me. It's Mahabharata. I'm studying 1 lakh shlokas in original Sanskrit. And I've completed 25,000. I'll tell you what the magic happened in my house. So, my wife, when she got married, the typical, MBA, finance, all those, and the great lady. She's all looking, padho. Padhai matlab kya? 93% books sold in India are textbooks. We don't read beyond textbooks, isn't it? So I said, no, padho, sunti nahi thi. Phir dheere dheere dekha ke we have a good, reading culture in our family. Actual physical reading, we have books. In my own house and office put together, I got 7,000 books. And it's a collection I really value. It so happened that my wife saw it, she started reading, and now she's got into such an intellectual discussion that we have. Amazing. She's doing a PhD. We have no problem with our children. They love books. I'm okay with mobile also. I'm okay with books. You will be surprised. We don't have place to keep books in a house. And I have this statement. If you don't have place to keep books in your house, convert your house into a library. And live in a library. It's messy because the children are small, but it's beautiful. Surround yourself with knowledge and become a knowledge seeker at whatever age you have. I had a wonderful instance, by the way, not wonderful once, even now. Mumbai University course, we have a father and a son in the same batch. And the father is an IT expert, financially done, son is just in the part of the career. 2 years course, Masters in Leadership, he comes and is like, Radha sir, you changed my life towards my son because when he enrolled, his mother just died. We had no financial problem, but I didn't have a purpose in my life because I had achieved everything. Pre-early retirement. Or bacha abhi tak, today, father and son can discuss any topic under the sun because they're equally students. The son got his first job in a multinational company with the highest package. And the father is on a consulting career. But the beauty he says is that, I don't have a generation gap anymore. Generation gap is not about age. It's about intellectual understanding at the same level.
Yes.
Okay? The first thing is education, that you start at home, so enroll yourself. Second is school. So yes, whatever schools you go to, great. I'm not against any boards, but look at the quality of teachers. कैसे पता चले? बात तो करके देखो previous batches के students से teacher कैसा है. You choose an acharya first, then the gurukul. You're choosing gurukuls without knowing the background of the acharya. I have a complete lecture on how to choose your teachers and education institution. Maybe we'll keep it for some other time. Third thing, please enroll them and make them part of some spiritual organization. I'm not talking about religious organization, okay? Unfortunately, we don't understand the difference between religion, spirituality and philosophy. 3 different things. Why? I'll tell you what. I've been part of Chinmaya mission. Okay? Right from childhood. And today when I'm looking at Arthashastra, maybe how did it start? Because from the childhood, I used to go for a Sunday class. Even in the Christian model, there is a church every Sunday. Even in the Islamic community, in the Jewish community, everything is there. So if you're not giving those kind of a parallel third education system, the child is not complete. You decide which the organization is. But when they go there, and there can be many parallel, okay? So I got trained in the armed forces when I was in 7th standard. So there's something called SCC, Secret Corps. I was there for 4 years. I marched at the Rajpath. Okay, the discipline still stays with me. Okay, so spiritual organizations give you that benefit of discipline. Children also listen to parents, but they always listen to teachers. Our education. Now coming to career. Please sit with them every day for half an hour without talking to them and without guiding them right and wrong. Every day half an hour if you sit with your child with an open mind without taking a moral class which the child is bored. This, I'm telling you, believe me, it will open out new vistas for you. Kya chal raha hai? My mother, when she retired, after that she came to me, मुझे computer सीखना है, ठीक है? After retirement, she learned Excel sheet, programming, Microsoft, everything. उसने अपने पैसे से laptop लिया. Okay? Internet banking किया. She was only 10th standard pass. Internet banking किया, mobile किया. She was on Twitter, WhatsApp. You look at Facebook. And when she died, it was a sudden death and a very good death. I don't regret because जिस तरह वो गई ना, it was like queen of the highest order. Lived her life on her own terms, left on her own terms. Not a single time she ever got hospitalized. Yes, the physical loss is there. But the biggest problem that we had, we could not crack her passwords. A lady at 73 learned programming and say, I can go back to job. नहीं बेटा, मैंने गलती किया. मेरे wife always said, उसको काम करने देना चाहिए था. Maybe I did not understand what is freelance was that. We got the best cyber security actually crack तो हो ही नहीं सकता है. You know the beauty of that lady? She had a physical printout everywhere kept. So we could crack it. हम लोग backup का बोलते हैं ना. It's very important. If you think you need to guide the children on their career, listen to them. And believe me that half an hour of being a student with your children will open up new worlds for you. And by the way, it's very dynamic and moving also. I can tell you instances in Bombay. There is a boy, two friends from Ghatkopar. They made some app and sold it to Google. Okay, and they went to the parents and बोले कि अभी Google ने भेज दिया है, पैसा देने वाला. पापा हाँ ठीक है बेटा. Okay, कितना? 300 crores. मालूम था ये तुम दोनों बैठ के ना वो लैपटॉप में रात भर करके then they came to another friend. टेररिस्ट लोग का कुछ लग रहा है. 300 crores. I made 30 crores after my whole 30 years of working, and you 30 crores is also big, right? 300 crore first deal. Of course, then I was part of the discussion. Let's verify with an expert. Why are you deciding? You verify it's true. Today both the boys are like, it's a different league altogether. BCom second year. So if you want to know a career for your children, sit down with them, understand them, learn along with them, enroll with them. So this father who decided to enroll with a son also has a second career, along with the son who's got his best career take off with a multinational company at 23. And maybe if they may. So we don't understand the difference between career and finance. We anyway mix it up. So talking about finance, last point, don't worry. The government will take care, somebody will take care, your friends will take care. Be ready for death. But live a life that you're not afraid of death. This COVID, all the old people are frightened. बाहर ही नहीं आते. They were like, this country has told you your body is temporary. I have a special request to all the children. If your grandparents are sitting, tell them to get out. And if possible, walk out with them. I take my father everywhere I go. We went to the Himalayas, went to the Raj Bhavan. And after we went for the checkup, डर तो लगता ही है. You have to be careful, not fearful. आने के बाद डॉक्टर ने उसका पैरामीटर चेक किया और 3 मेडिसिन कम हो गए. The question here is that it's a beautiful world. It's a world of opportunities. रोटी कपड़ा मकान का कोई problem नहीं है. My dear friends, I'll stop here by telling you that final thing. You will not believe it, and I don't want you to believe it. Do you know every person who is born in this particular world, the universe has created him or her for a special purpose. Special. Unique. There is no concept of equality in nature. Even 2 children born of the same parents cannot be equal, isn't it? Twins. They're unique, isn't it true? Have you heard about Siamese twins? 2 same body, heart, lungs एक साथ होता है, isn't it? And some Siamese twins have lived for 70, 76 years also. But they're unique. Don't try to make your children equal. Or maybe equal like you, because already passed. Make them unique. How do you find the uniqueness? Ready? Write down. You'll be shocked and you will not believe it, because I did not believe it. But now I only follow it. Astrologer. Astrologer तो क्या होता है? Friends, you'll be surprised. Astrology is a science, but we get stuck with a scientist. So astrologer could be wrong, but astrology is not. My astrologer, when I grew up, Radha, तेरे में 3 चीजें unique, God gifted to you. Follow it and you'll be successful in whatever you do. The first thing he told me is that number 1, you have a research mindset. PhD करके 21 books लिखा है और guide भी कर रहा हूँ यार. Unique to me. Everybody can't do it, but you can do it. Second thing is that you can write very well. It flows down. Thanks to my father who's a writer. Third thing, you're a great communicator. The most complex thing you can give it in very simple words. True or no? Now I decided my field will be Chanakya. चाणक्य पे रिसर्च करता हूँ, चाणक्य पे लिखता हूँ, चाणक्य on all 3 fields I'm number 1. Uniqueness. How do you find the child's uniqueness? Please go to an astrologer. Unfortunately, we have lost respect for the astrologers, and the quality of astrology is also very bad. We don't understand the difference between a pandit and an archaka. You know what the archaka? अर्चना करते हैं ना, पूजा करने आता है घर पे. सत्यनारायण के लिए आ जाओ, शादी मतलब हो गया जरा दक्षिणा, और उसको 11 रुपया देता है. कैसा प्रोफेशन कंटिन्यू करेगा? And a pandit is a scholar of that subject. Astrologers, if you want, I can connect you offline. My astrologers are software engineers. They'll give you a report. My astrologers are MA in Sanskrit teaching in universities. And please don't look at astrology as futurology. मेरा बच्चा का क्या होगा? Again, strong start. मेरे बच्चे में क्या uniqueness है? When my children were born, we looked at the uniqueness, and believe me, it helps us in taking every decision. School hai, health hai, everything. It's an amazing science which we have forgotten. Second, a very simple one, please try it. After astrology, Nadi Shastri. What about it? Palm leaves? Anybody wants, I can give it to maybe Payal, you can pass it on. What is Nadi Shastra? I'll tell you. Anybody has gone to Nadi Shastra? Works? Works or no? You can actually tell what your past life is and the purpose of this life is. True? Works? वो टाइम आने तक नहीं आएगा. आज का आपका टाइम आ गया है. Bloom. Astrologers have this unique thing. Nadi Shastri. There are palm leaves and they're across India. Okay. In South India there's a different tradition. So you go there and they'll tell you exactly आपका past life में क्या हुआ था, यहाँ पे क्या है और आगे क्या करना चाहिए. I know my children's past life. I know my past life, and it's not rocket science. The world is coming back to India. Indians are not awakened to Indianness. I don't believe it. Don't believe. That's not my problem. But I'm going to tell you, Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara. I'm talking Satya and I'm following my Dharma of telling you what is the reality. And there's a proven case study, okay? Not a failure talking about how to succeed. Go back to your Dadi Maa ka nuska. जब एलोपैथी नहीं चलती, होम्योपैथी नहीं चलती, तो तिरुपति चलती है. Go back to Indian sciences, Indian root. They got every question for you. Believe me, friends, an amazing world. Go back. Look at that beautiful child, boy or girl, 2 years or 21 years, or not yet born child. He or she is the hope to this world. But don't make them hopeless. I want not a failed artist from JJ School of Art, but a Subhashish Modi who still designs 9 out of 10 malls in India. So there is a course available if somebody is interested. It's called Communication Design. You heard about this subject? You can design your communication. Again, there are companies which are business communication departments also. Now, what are the forms of communication? Okay. So typically the first one that we know is verbal and written communication. Is it true? So you want to communicate something, I put it on words, I write a letter or put it on WhatsApp. And the whole bureaucracy is about written communication. True? Patra liya. And in our army also, till that order doesn't come, you cannot move forward. So when Bombay was built, they waited for a long time to get that, whatever drafting okayed from the British Parliament and all that stuff. So first is written communication. Second is verbal communication. Chanakya talks about it. In the government, in the Arthashastra, Chanakya says everything that is documented can be referred to future generations. Isn't it true? So when you write something, when you put something, even after many generations, all law cases are beyond generations, isn't it? So first is written communication, but don't just write shabbily. Write with clarity. So that's where you start thinking about it. Second part of it is verbal communication. Many times people who are not clear confuse the other person by talking. So in the armed forces again, it has to be specific and precise. True? And the third, very important, which probably we do indirectly, but we should do consciously, is like body language communication. So when you go to a particular event, the way you stand, the way you sit, the dresses that you wear. So it is said, if you want to show your strength, okay, body communication. If you show your strength, two things are important according to Chanakya. Astra, Vastra, and Shastra. 3 things. First start with Vastra. Isn't it important that what we wear? So young people say, now I can go in a shorts and I started. Okay, that's when you're young, okay? But your Astra, your Vastra matters. Because that sends a very strong message. True? When I go to Raj Bhavan wearing a coat, the respect is different, isn't it? I go in shorts, you may be the same person. It's a very strong communication about your Vastra. So dress appropriately. Very important. Now come to Shastra. Okay? It's very important to know what's your tools of communication. Okay? So Today, if you look at a mobile, it's a very important shastra, isn't it? So you use it. And many times, the pen that you use, maybe the laptop that you use. Okay? So, first is Vastra, Astra and Shastra. Difference between Astra and Shastra? Pardon? No. So, I would say, okay, Astra is almost like the technology and then the tool. The technology that you use. For example, it's a software and hardware. So, I can have a great mobile phone as a Shastra. But andar jo hota hai na, the operating system that I use. Okay. It can't be just the mode of communication. So, it's also the base of communication. Okay. So, let me give an example. Let's say I want to write a letter. Okay. So, I have to write a letter. So, first of all, I should know what I have to communicate. That clarity has to be in me. Second is that today, if I have to communicate through a letter, I'm not physically there. But don't you look at the envelope or the paper that you use? That's when many companies, the printout kaun-sa A4 size ka nikala and all those things. So that becomes the Vastra. Now it depends on what is the kind of format, fonts that you use also. That's the Astra. And then actually what you have the Shastra is the printer itself. That if you have a dot matrix printer or a versus. So coming back to the point that there are three systems that we are talking about, Chanakya's communication, that is the forms, the written, the verbal, and of course the third one, which is written and body communication. In Arthashastra, there is a technical word for it, it's called Deha Vidya. Deha Vidya. So these are the types of communication. Now coming back to the other part of it. There is one skill required for good communication. And that word is called Anvikshiki. You guys remember this word? Anvikshiki. Anvikshiki is the first knowledge that you require to be a leader. What is Anvikshiki? Anvekshan. Okay? Anvekshan, which means research. Think about that subject before you open your mouth. So do you prepare? Have you done the thinking? Our problem is that we keep blabbering. That's not speaking. So if you look at, at the very high political level, one word mistake here and there can create wars between two countries. Hota hai ki nahi hota hai? So have you thought about it? So think twice before you speak, bolte hai na. Iska jo skill hai communication, it's called Anvikshiki. I mean, there's a book I have written on that. And it says if you practice thinking, okay, right thinking logically and all those things, and then what you say, it can be few words, but it's impactful. Our problem is we have long words, but no impact. So Anvikshiki is a skill that we need to develop before you start communicating. In fact, he says, Pradipaha sarva vidyanam ashraya sarva karanam shashvat anvikshiki mata. Any knowledge that you have in the world, Pradipaha, the knowledge is thinking, isn't it? So think about it, research about it and all those things and then go. I'll give you some practical tips, especially when we do the corporate training. Don't get into a meeting before creating an agenda. When meeting with the committees, come eat and have tea. In fact, I go to the extent of even telling that even if you have to meet your subordinate, take a piece of paper and write it down. It clarifies, isn't it? Mind is a very interesting thing. It doesn't have a motor. You can give directions, isn't it? Mind can go everywhere. And when you're using the mind as a tool for communication, you need to train the mind through Anvikshiki. Okay, so Anvikshiki is the method to train your mind to think precise. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that comes from discipline also. And I would say, at a very practical, if you want to be a great communicator, one of the things you should do is meditation. But I wanted to add on one thing is that you can also bring in the time element to communication. Okay? सामने से पहले पूछ लो कितना time है. If सामने वाला नहीं बोलते तो you decide. You decide when you want to end. Okay? Because if you have to communicate, it has to be precise. So I'll tell you two Sanskrit words. Okay, remember these two Sanskrit words. Samasa and Vyasa. Okay? These are two ways of communication according to our Indian scriptures. What is Samasa? Precise. Vyasa means detailed explanation. Many times people don't require detailed explanation. They require the crux of it, isn't it? 100 baat ki ek baat. So you should be clear सामने वाले को क्या चाहिए. You have all the knowledge in the world, but Einstein put it very nicely. If you are not simplified it enough, you are not understood it enough. So E is equal to mc square. If you actually ask the engineers, they say that's the simplest form of understanding. Isn't it true? Simplest. But हमारे लिए नया है. If you are not in that particular field, you require Vyasa, Vistar. What is E? What is okay? So somebody who is a beginner may require a Vyasa, but somebody who is an expert will require a Samasa. So मैं हमेशा बोलता हूँ कि सामने वाला कौन है, उसको समझ के कम्युनिकेट करना. जैसे योगा टीचर, okay? He had learned some yoga and all those things. MA वगैरह करके gold medalist है. तो somebody came to him and said, I want to learn yoga. तो बैठो. ऐसा होता है पतंजलि योग सूत्र में ऐसा होता है. This is all blah 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 blah. After half an hour, saying that, sir, I came to learn yoga. I'm teaching you yoga, but I thought you'll teach me some exercises. Then that person hit me that he has not come for theoretical knowledge, even if I have it. He has come for specific exercise. Then he said, wait, it's my mistake. He called up his guru saying that, अरे भैया सामने वाला है, कब पहले 2 सवाल पूछो ना, योगा का उसका definition क्या है, ठीक है, for him it is yoga asanas. So give him 2 tips and he'll be happy. Isn't that knowledge with the right communication? A lot of people are knowledgeable but they cannot communicate rightly. And you can use communication tools to make it more interesting. So when you teach Anvikshiki to children, you have to have storytelling. The greatest teachers who are remembered are not only subject matter experts, but the great communicators. True or no? No subject is difficult or boring. Sorry, difficult or interesting. Boring or interesting. It is how the teacher makes it. True? Go back to your teachers. Maths could be the most hated subject for most, but there are people who are interested in math because of the way the teacher taught it. And in India, coming back to this particular thing, we had a great legacy of the most difficult subjects being taught in poetry. You see, that's a great culture. Do you know one thing? You can actually teach physics in poetry, engineering in poetry. It's all there, huh? In poetry forms. Bhagavad Gita is a poetry, isn't it true? And like if you look at all the saints, it is not about theoretical knowledge like a research paper. अरे बाप रे, research paper पढ़ के 2 लाइन में डर लगता है. It's like holding a fat book. Our rishis had this whole thing about communicating in poetry with lyrics. My father learned mathematical formula in some Malayalam lyrics and he still remembers it. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. याद रहता है ना? उसमें थोड़ा song डाल दिया, music डाल दिया. So Sanskrit is a beautiful lyrical language which can communicate the highest concept in the simplest way. So tools are like storytelling. आजकल corporate world में storytelling का बड़ा चीज है. हमारे ऋषि लोग वही करते थे ना. रामायण महाभारत stories ही है. हितोपदेश is a story. So you can tools of communication come into Hitopadesha, stories, you call it case studies. So जो भी आप language, so you record examples. But all these great things you can have, but सामने वाले को क्या चाहिए और उसका maturity level क्या है? If you don't know how that, sorry, तो सामने वाला policeman दिखता है. But do you know the thing that police में भी categories है? खाकी यूनिफॉर्म policeman है, but वो हवलदार भी हो सकता है, IPS भी हो सकता है, isn't it? True. So this is where the next level, use your thinking and said, okay, साहब, sorry, huh? It works with a हवलदार. उसके साथ झगड़ा करते हैं. उसको थोड़ा respect चाहिए. True or no? I'll stop with a small joke. This is very interesting story of mine. Oh, it's fun to talk to him. You know, he'll get so many humorous angles to every discussion. So he was traveling from Pune to Mumbai during the COVID days, and the peak of COVID days. तो बोला कि सर मिलना है. आ जाओ कल, हम तो बैठे ही है. ही के मैं बोला पुलिस ने रोका नहीं क्या? बोलते 3 जगह रोका सर. कितना फाइन दिया? क्या फाइन देने का साहब? So when they caught me, साहब sorry, मेरे को अर्जेंट जाना पड़ रहा है. नहीं. You know what? In Marathi I will use it. साहेब मी चुकी केलंय. आता तुम्ही सांगा मला मी कसं जायचं तुम्हाला न पैसे देता. Great communication. All 3 of them तो जा रहे बाबा इधर से. Next time मत आना. Think about this. Humor can be a great form of communication. It's a way of wisdom. Okay? So you can crack some of the biggest problems by actually using humor as a great communication tool. तुम्ही सांगा मला मी कसं जाऊ तुम्हाला पैसे न देता. But for that you have to understand, and very important, Chanakya respects the opponent also. You can't say मैं तेरे से बड़ा. Then it becomes an argument, not a discussion or a debate. आजकल वो मॉडल यूनाइटेड नेशंस का चल रहा है ना, पता नहीं आपको? अरे horrible. It's all about making policies. So they debate and discuss, but they don't know the first thing about communication is respect. In fact, in my book Chanakya, you have written this: family debates and discussions, communication within family. So I have created a picture and I say कि फैमिली में झगड़ा होता है, होना भी चाहिए, थोड़ा बहुत मतभेद तो होना चाहिए, लेकिन मनभेद नहीं होना चाहिए. मतभेद हो सकता है, मनभेद नहीं. Okay, so there is a beautiful poster kept in that family. It is said, I may not agree with you, but till death I will not take away your freedom to disagree with me. Communication can be precise, communication can be detailed, but first of all you should study, think about it, and सामने वाले को जितना चाहिए उतना ही दो. Thank you.